Hello.
Hi.
And welcome.
It's our Q&A video.
Yeah. The long-awaited, much requested. Surprisingly, I didn't think I was that interesting, but apparently we're pretty interesting.
I have no idea how long this video is going to wind up being.
We're just going to apologize in advance because, we ramble when we have one set thing to talk about for a specific purpose. So, strap in, make some popcorn. Shit could get wild.
We should have made coffee or tea or something.
Oh, well.
Can I have a Coke?
Oh, well.
Alright, so I've written down all of your guys' questions.
Probably couldn't see any of that, but you guys had questions and we were going to do our best to answer them in a not too smart alecky rambly type way. We'll see how it goes.
You know it's going to be smart alecky because it's
It's going to be a disaster. I love it.
Okay, so the first question is, are there any dream jobs that either of you would like to do?
Probably. I don't know. I've been focused for so long on that I'm not really digging what I'm doing. Which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy aspects of my work, but there's a lot of the stuff surrounding it that I'm just not that big on. It just sucks. If I had to put something together, though, I would think something with a 7-figure income private jet and 3 secret killings annually. But
secret killings annually.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a dream job. I guess maybe I'd like to do something where I get to be indoors, maybe dress a little nicer. Perhaps not so hazardous of an environment in terms of fumes and dust and confined spaces and atmospheric issues and stuff. I don't know. Nothing really specifically comes to mind.
Growing up, my dream job was to be a lawyer or a psychologist. Until I found out how expensive that schooling was and how long I had to go for, and then I decided I wasn't going to do that. And I'm glad I didn't in hindsight, but that's what I had wanted to do. Now that I'm older, my dream job was to be a stay-at-home mom and a stay-at-home wife. Turns out that's the hardest job I've ever had in my life, and I don't know that it's my dream job anymore, if I'm being honest. My dream job now is I'd like to be a life coach, I think, is what I'd like to be doing. I love being able to have a positive impact in other people's lives. I like being able to always provide a unbiased, honest insight and advice when warranted or when asked for. I think I would probably really enjoy something like that.
So as far as once I grew out of wanting to be Batman when I grew up or a Transformer, I kind of the 3 jobs that I was really interested in wanting to pursue kind of from junior high school was lawyer, fighter pilot, and infantry soldier. It turns out for a lawyer you got to be pretty smart, get good grades for a consistent period of time. That wasn't in the cards. As far as a fighter pilot goes, you have to be really smart. You got to have be in really good shape, and you got to have perfect vision. So no, and no. And for infantry soldier, you got to be in decent shape, and you have to have character references from people that have known you for more than 5 years that you were not related to, which at that point in my life described 0 human beings. So that went out the window.
You could go do infantry now if you wanted to.
No, I'm too old now.
It's okay, I wouldn't want you in the military anyways.
Honestly, most mornings I have a hard time just rolling over in bed, never mind doing anything productive.
Next question is, what financial related things do you plan on doing with your daughter? Allowance, college savings, etc.
If we do end up saving for post-secondary, I don't think we're going to do it in one of the specific education savings plans. Just because I recall hearing that you can you save up the money, but you can only use it for college. So if she decides not to go to college, the money's kind of forfeit, which doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
As far as whether we're going to do college savings or not, I think that depends really on Freya. I mean, if she's the kind of kid playing hide and seek at the playground, hiding behind a chain link fence, probably not going to save for college.
I think realistically our plan is that we would, when we were pregnant with her, we had the discussion that whatever child care benefit we got from the government, we would take that money every month and put it away into a tax-free savings account for her and let that money accumulate until she became of age. Now, for her first year of life, that income that we got every month, it's a small amount, it's about $190 a month, that has gone to diapers, wipes, formula, baby stuff, bottles, like whatever we needed throughout her first year of life.
When we made that initial decision, I had steady work and a decent monthly predictable income. And things have obviously changed since then, so we kind of needed to use whatever money we could get our hands on to do things.
Yeah, so I think the plan is now going into her second year of life, now that we have pretty much everything that we need, is that we will take that money that we get every month and we will start putting that away for her. I think the idea being that, like, if she wanted to use it for post-secondary, she could. If she wanted to use it as a down payment when she was older, she could. If we wanted to use it to help pay for her wedding when she got married, we could. You know, it's just kind of a for Freya fund as to whatever that's going to be.
Yeah, because I mean, like, for me growing up, I had kind of aspirations of going to post-secondary. I think it's something I would have liked to do, but also I was very aware that my family couldn't afford to send me. I had no concept of how I would be able to pay for it on my own. And I wasn't smart enough or athletic enough to get any sort of a scholarship or anything like that. So I kind of just fell lackluster in school, I suppose. And like, even if Freya doesn't choose to go to any type of post-secondary or anything, I'd like for her to at least know that she has that option if she wants to take it.
And then in terms of allowance, Cody and I have talked a little bit about this, not at great length because she's so young yet that she wouldn't get an allowance. But I think our idea is that we wouldn't give her money for doing chores, right? Because chores is kind of like stuff that you should be doing anyways.
Yeah, like chores, I don't know, to me, like above and beyond chores, you know, maybe kick her a couple bucks for that. But if it's the kind of stuff that, like, hey, you picked up your toys today, it's like, good for you. You did the bare minimum necessary to stay alive. Yeah.
I think we would just kind of establish like what should be expected age appropriately for her, and then maybe give her some stretch goals or stretch tasks that she could do, things that are a little more challenging that wouldn't normally be, you know, the responsibility of someone her age. Another thing would be any money that she gets gifted to her for birthdays or Christmas or anything like that. I think obviously for now all of that would just go into a savings account, but when she gets older, I think we would want to involve her more in, you know, here's the money that you got, you want to save some, you want to spend some, and maybe give some, and like kind of guide her through establishing a good relationship with money.
I think until she's old enough to work in some capacity and make her own money outside the home, I think we'll pretty much just give her an allowance so that we can open the door to having that conversation of figuring out what future goals she might have with her money. You know, so like if she gets her allowance on the 1st of the month and spends it all on candy, and then on like the 5th we go somewhere really cool and she's bummed out that she can't afford to
get a toy,
get a toy or whatever that she wants to do. So that I definitely do want to give her an allowance so that we can have those conversations with her of like, you know, hey, remember there's this thing coming up, so make sure you have a little bit of money saved up. Like, don't spend it all now so that you can spend it later when you're really going to want to. Because I really think that'll benefit her a lot. But also I don't intend to do like allowance for chores. I think we'll probably just, you know, every other week she gets like, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks, whatever, depending how old she is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's still so young. This is a conversation we'll continue to have in our household and adjust as we feel necessary based on our values.
Who knows, by the time she's old enough for an allowance, maybe 20 bucks will be barely enough to buy half a sandwich.
Yeah. Next question is, do you earn income from YouTube? I would like a little bit of backstory on the two of you and your financial journeys. So no, currently we don't make any money off of YouTube. I think if we had stayed consistent right from the beginning with doing budgeting videos, we might have, or with the trailer. So if you guys are new here, Cody and I used to live in a 21.5-foot 1997 Travel Air Drifter. It was a 5th wheel trailer. It was not nice.
Yeah.
And we loved that thing. If you go through our channel. It felt
so much like home.
Yeah.
Even though I hated so much about it.
If you go through our channel, you can actually see how we lived in it. We lived in it year round, even right through in Alberta winter. It was the coldest winter we'd ever had. I think in my life, it got down to minus 47 a few times.
And ironically enough, it was more pleasant in the winter than in the summer.
Yeah. We did. We loved living in that trailer. And so a lot of our original subscribers and watch time hours came from that. And so obviously when we shifted our focus more to budgeting, we lost a lot of those subscribers. Our watch time hours dipped down because we weren't posting as much as we were kind of trying to figure out what we wanted to focus on, because when we got pregnant with Freya, we realized we couldn't stay in that trailer. So we moved back to the city. So obviously things had to change, and it...
you can't continue making trailer life videos if you don't even own a trailer anymore. So
no, we don't make money from our YouTube channel. Looking at our numbers, I think we'll probably be monetized in the next 4 to 6 months. I would think we have our subscriber goal met, but we're only about 70% of the way there for watch time hours. That's a little more difficult because we had so many watch time hours, and they only count for the last 12 months. So we have a lot of hours falling off, even though we're gaining hours. So we're still gaining. I want to say we're gaining
we're gaining hours at a pretty good rate. But we're still
losing
dropping
hours
off at a pretty good rate.
So it's kind of like this
But
uphill
I imagine
battle.
kind of once that year rolls through, the the watch time loss from the trailer videos, that it'll start to spike pretty rapidly and then maintain a pretty good upward trend. But for right now, no, we are not monetized through YouTube.
And then a backstory on our financial journey. I don't know how much detail we'll share on this because we do want to do an actual video just dedicated to what our debt journey has looked like so far. Because we have paid off over $200,000 in debt.
No, well, the quick version is that when we first got together, our total debt combined was about $66,000. In the last 6 years, at this point, I think we've bent probably pretty close to $300,000 to getting out of debt, and we still have 40 some to go. Yeah,
and before we got married, I was completely debt free. We had paid off my credit card, any loans that I had, my car, we had sold and paid off that loan and everything. I was 100% debt free, and Cody was very close to being debt free.
Yeah, at the time when we first got together, my net worth was such that if I would have obliterated my savings account, I could have been debt free, but I wasn't willing to do that because of the nature of my income. And since then, it's just spiraled. And a lot of that was revolving debt with credit cards, stupid decisions, or not stupid decisions, but less ideal decisions in regards to financing vehicles and stuff. But this is stuff we'll all go into good detail on further down the road.
Yeah. Next question is what... Freya's teething, and so she's not
apparently nap time's over.
She's not wanting to nap, and then when she does nap, she doesn't nap for long, and she wakes up crying. I'll just give her a minute to see if she goes back to bed.
Get her poop in a group.
I think she went back to sleep.
I think so. And we're back.
Okay, so the next question was, what were your goals when starting YouTube? When we started YouTube, I think it was more...
Yeah, I didn't really have any goals in relation to YouTube. It was kind of stuff that Valerie had dabbled with in the past and done stuff with some other things. I wasn't really involved, except kind of as a cameo here and there.
Yeah. For me, I think my vision for it was, and it's still very much a vision now. Today, it's just changed on what it looks like, but we wanted to share an alternative living style. We felt like we personally came from an environment where we very much felt like we were keeping up with the Joneses. We both worked full-time. We were making very good money. We both had nice vehicles. We both lived in nice apartments. It was still an apartment, but they were nice places. We had a lot of nice, expensive toys, but we weren't happy. We were so unhappy.
Yeah. And I kind of had a bit of a chip on my shoulder around it too, just in relation to the income I was able to make. But also I'm still very much, when people complain about their full-time 40 hours a week, I'm very much like, oh yeah, I work 40 hours too. Usually buy about first coffee on Wednesday.
Yeah. And we're back.
Again.
Freya joins us. So what was I saying? That we were very unhappy. And I remember Cody and I just had a very candid conversation one night of why are we living like this, and what are our goals? And we decided to do a total 180. I remember that was back when Cody was on EI for like almost a year straight. The industry had totally tanked. It still hasn't fully recovered.
No, if anything, it's gotten worse.
He was on EI. We had no money in savings. I quit my job. We sold everything we owned and we moved into this crappy little trailer. And we wanted to start documenting that journey because we wanted to share with people what living like that looked like and how enjoyable it could be. Mm-hmm. And it didn't look like how we thought it was going to look.
No.
But we really enjoyed it. And I think
we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it taught us a lot about ourselves and what we really need versus what we want, mm-hmm. and what makes us happy and what makes us think that we'll be happy. You know, we had so much less and we were much happier then than we are even right now. Mm-hmm. And so still to this day, even though we're not living in that trailer, we want to share this journey of us digging our way out of debt and why we choose to do the things we do the way that we do, because everybody's story looks different, and I don't like that people feel pressured to do things a certain way or live life a certain way.
Specifically through social media and just, I guess, mainstream media in general, just with commercials, TV shows, marketing, we're taught that a successful, happy, fulfilled lifestyle looks a certain way. Mm-hmm. And we pursued that for a very long time, and it's not something we liked. It's not something we wanted. And like, if you were to ask me right now what my dream life would be to pursue, I wanted to get just a raw chunk of land, hack down some trees, build my own house,
and homestead,
start a garden, homestead kind of deal, raise mm-hmm. our own animals, and just the rest of the world can do whatever it wants because I'm on my land and doing my thing.
Yeah. We're very passionate about the pursuit of personal freedom, mm-hmm.
And
that all starts with financial freedom, obviously.
Yeah.
And so we still share our journey, no matter how uninteresting, unexciting, uninspiring it might look now, because we want to give people the courage to take leaps, mm-hmm. To make choices that maybe you normally wouldn't make, and travel down the path less traveled. And that sounds so cheesy, but
it sounds very cliche.
That has always been kind of our vision, and it still is.
And I mean, like, we also we fully believe that we're going to be that we're going to achieve that at some point, so that our channel currently will serve as a kind of a day-to-day documentary that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Next question. The work exposure and experience for both of you, the more recently and that of your past, as far back as school-aged paying job.
I had a job very briefly in junior high delivering newspapers, and I still remember it because I feel like I got screwed doing this job. I was told my route was going to be 50 houses and that I would make $60 a week. And that the papers would come completely built. I just had to open up the box, take the papers, and go give them to people. And it wound up being that the papers came in 6 parts. I had to build them myself. I had 120 houses, and they only paid me $30 a week. So I did that job for 20 seconds, and then called the lady up and said, "Hey, remember when I used to work for you?" And then after that, my next paying job was, I want to say, a little convenience store, a small town. Yeah, it was at the Fields at Boyle. Maybe it was a bargain store then, I don't know. But just kind of base retail type stuff. I worked at a pizza place for a while. I've worked at convenience stores. I think one of the best jobs I ever had, I worked at a small chemical manufacturing plant just outside of Edmonton. They made and still make environmentally friendly hand soaps, shampoos, cleaners. They do a little bit for well servicing and industrial applications, but the bulk of it is hand soap for hospitals and schools and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that job. It was probably the best one I've ever had, in terms of the work environment, the work I was doing, and the people I got to work with. That was really awesome. And then after that, I fell into the trades pretty much by accident. I became a laborer on an industrial site. Was working with the pipe fitters all the time, doing the exact same work as them for half their pay, and I figured, one of us is stupid and it's not these guys. So I got my fitting ticket. Since I've upgraded my training and stuff a couple times and sort of halfway started another career. But that's pretty much what I've been doing since, is just in industrial construction.
So I got my first job when I was 15. And I worked at Orange Julius in the mall right across from the high school that I went to. My parents had just separated, and I had moved in with my dad. And I thank my dad for the hard lessons he taught me in my younger years, one of them being how to be financially responsible for myself. He always provided the roof over my head, the food in the fridge, and made sure my schooling was taken care of. But if I had wanted a bus pass to go anywhere, if I wanted a cell phone, if I wanted to go see the movies with my friends, anything like that, I had to get a job and go pay for it myself. And of course, at the time, being 15, I didn't like that. But it taught me how to be responsible from a very young age. And I looking back, I really appreciate that lesson. So I worked part-time, about 15 to 23 hours a week at Orange Julius throughout the entire time that I was in high school. After I graduated, I actually packed up everything I owned within hours after writing my last diploma and moved to another town with my then boyfriend at the time, where I didn't know anybody, and got my first job working in retail. So I worked full-time in retail for Payless Shoe Source, who is no longer in Canada. They've since shut down, but I worked for them for a number of years. I transferred back to Edmonton and continued to work for them there. Then I got a job working as an assistant manager for Carlton Cards. Within 2 weeks of working for them, I was then promoted to manager for one of their other stores at a very high volume store. I worked there for a little bit. And then it kind of dawned on me that I was only 20 years old, and that was as far as I could go in that career, unless I wanted to go back to school and get a Bachelor of Business, I think it was, that they wanted. And I didn't have the money for schooling, and it was only paying me, I think I was making $20 an hour at the time, which was pretty good back then and for my age, but that was it. I was at like the height of my career at 20 years old. So I then got my foot in the door with a company called West Corp doing residential leasing. I worked with them for 8 months, and then I got a job offer to do leasing with another company, Midwest Property Management. I stayed with them, I want to say, for 4.5 years, or no, 2.5 years, I think, with them. And I did leasing there for a little bit. They paid for my training and my certificates and stuff like that, whatever designations I needed. They were a fantastic company to work for. I was then promoted to manager and managed a high-rise across from the university in our city here. I was promoted again to take over 2 buildings back on the other side of the city. And then the company did some restructuring, and then I lost that job. And then I went into another management position in residential with the company we actually rent from right now. I only stayed with them for a few months. They
weren't very good to work for. They're honestly not that great to work for.
Yeah, they're a terrible company. And then I got a job offer to do leasing, which was a step down from what I was used to. I was used to being in management, but it was leasing in commercial property management, and I'd never done commercial before. And what commercial property management is when you see like strip malls or standalone stores like McDonald's, TD Bank, stuff like that. That's what commercial leasing is. So I did that, and I got in with a company called First Capital, and I worked with them for 4.5 years, and they were an amazing company to work for. I absolutely loved working with them. And that was the company I left when Cody and I decided to move into our trailer. So,
well, part of moving into the trailer was for work. The only job I could find was like 5 hours away from home, and they didn't pay. There was no camp. They didn't pay any sort of living out allowance, so we had to live there. And the only way to make that happen on short notice was to buy a really dumpy trailer and go live at the campground.
But you didn't even have that job when we bought that trailer. You didn't get that job until 2 weeks after we moved into that trailer. We literally did just take a leap of faith, like we had no money or anything like that.
Yeah, we were.
But that was my kind of career history. I come from a background in property management, and I don't know that I'll ever go back. Sometimes I think about it. I often think about going back, but being a mom is a tough full-time job.
And also, it's hard to want to do a job like that for basically half pay, because whatever income we would gain from Valerie going back to work, like half of it would have to go to Freya's daycare.
Yeah. Are all your conversations about money as peaceful and productive as they are on camera?
I think generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
I think about the biggest argument we ever had was in our video that we just recorded this morning.
Which didn't go up because then we had to re-record it.
Oh, right.
Because the audio was all screwed up.
So some background on this argument about our money was that I'm currently working out of town on an LOA job, so it's not camp, nothing's provided. They give me a living out allowance every day, and then I gotta pay for, hotel, gas, food, whatever. And Valerie decided that I needed more money than I thought I needed, and she wouldn't listen.
Yeah, Cody.
So anyway, she compromised and she gave me more money than I needed.
Cody and I have worked very hard over the last few years to maintain and continue to have really good communication together. I think I've said this in videos before, like Cody and I disagree on a lot of things. I think some people maybe have the misconception that we just agree with everything. And we're both pretty laid back personalities. Neither of us really like confrontation. So maybe that's got something to do with it too. But we do have very differing opinions about a lot of things. And we do disagree, but we're also very respectful to one another. We never belittle one another or try to manipulate the other one into, doing what we want or coming over to our side. And that extends to finances as well. So,
yeah, on the non-financial side, I trust Valerie's heart, even if she does something that I think is really stupid or I'm totally against. I know beyond all doubt that she's not just sitting there going, I'm a fuck with his day. So it's really easy for me to just at worst be like, really, and let it go, because I know she's doing it from whatever it is, from a position of genuinely trying her very best to move us towards our goals, which we discuss our goals quite frequently.
Yeah.
So it's really not that hard to not argue or fight or
specifically with our finances, right? Because we're both, we do all our budgeting together, so we both know what direction we're headed in, or what our goals are, when they're changing, why they're changing. It's a constant conversation around that, and so I don't think there's ever a case where it's like a surprise, we're changing this, and then the other person being like, well, I don't agree,
Yeah, because specifically in my line of work, a lot of the guys I work with, they're married, but their finances are totally separate from their spouses. They pay half the rent, they pay half of everything. Their money's totally separate from their money. And they're really surprised to learn that Val and I do everything. We're completely 100% integrated, because in my mind, that's what a marriage is. A lot of the guys I work with, well, I wouldn't want that stupid bitch in charge of my money. I want to just be able to go and buy a new gun when I want to, or whatever, just do whatever I want. Which I understand the appeal of, but also that's not a marriage.
No.
And if you wouldn't trust your wife with your finances to discuss goals with you and honestly move in the direction of those goals, why did you get married?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not in charge of Cody's money, just like he's not in charge of my money. We are in charge of our finances.
Yeah, we earn our money, it goes into the pot, and then based on our goals and based on conversations we have in changing situations, we decide the best way to use it.
Yeah, like when I was working full-time and Cody was off work, I never thought this is all of my money I'm making, I don't want Cody to spend it. And it's never been that way for you either. Now that I'm home with Freya, I don't think you've ever been like, well, this is my money. In fact, I usually say when Cody gets paid, and Cody goes, you mean when we get paid? And I'm like, yeah, that's you, we're the one working. And he goes, but it's our money.
Yeah, and I'm very cognizant of that, because I don't want to be one of those people that's like a tyrant around the house. Because I kind of grew up that way, and I don't want my family to live that way.
Yeah. Do you guys discuss the budget before making videos? No, not really.
That's why we ramble so much.
Yeah.
You guys haven't noticed that we're not just a complete mess.
We do that for two reasons. One is because we don't really feel the need to. If there's something big, we might say before we sit down, like, okay, let's not forget to prioritize XYZ.
Yeah.
But we also don't talk about it before the videos, because we want to share like an authentic, real view of like how we communicate and how those sessions work, because what you see on camera is exactly how we would do it if we weren't on camera. You know?
The only difference between on camera and off camera is that on camera we're at the desk and it's like a very cramped space that's not very comfortable.
Do you see all this food on the floor?
I do.
We're getting towards the end here, guys. We're trying to
we're
trying to wrap it up. What careers has Cody been considering? Anything that's not pipe fitting.
Yeah, so I've been a pipe fitter for coming on, I think, 12 years now. Is when I got my first job in industrial construction. 4 years ago, I got an IRATA certificate, so I'm also a rope tech. The job I'm actually doing right now, it's only 4 days a week, 40 hours a week, which is pretty nice and chill. And it's got a nice long commute, so I can listen to podcasts and stuff like that. But I'm mostly doing rope access. We're rappelling into a dam, like an old dam, to remove a bunch of walkways and ladders and stuff like that have since rusted out and kind of rotted away, and torch cutting all those and gutting the inside of the dam, and that's really super cool. But mostly I work industrial construction. As far as careers I've considered, I tried door-to-door sales for a while, and if there's ever a job that would make me want to jump off of something big, it's door-to-door sales. But yeah, I don't know. I think at this point, kind of career-wise, we're sort of putting our eggs in the YouTube basket, because this is something we really enjoy. We enjoy making videos with you guys, and we enjoy just making videos. So that's kind of it. And I mean, as far as career change, there's not really much I could do, because like, as you're going to see in the budget video, we had like just over $1,100 to budget with, and that was from 2 days work. There are not many places that, like, I can't afford to start another career elsewhere because I can't afford to start at the bottom.
Yeah, Cody's trade and specialty pays about $45 to $50 an hour. Well, we'll say $40 to $50 an hour. Generally, it depends on where he's working. And then obviously he works 10 to 12 hour days. Sometimes he works for 21 days straight. So like, the money is really good when there's work available. The other plus side to this is that means when he's off work, he maxes out EI. So EI pays, I think, what, 45%?
Something like that, yeah.
It maxes you out at 45% of whatever your income is. So he gets the full maximum. They cap him at about $2,000 a month or $500 a week. So if he were to go get another job, an entry-level job, he would be looking to start at about $25 an hour, which is not enough to pay all of our bills with the debts that we have. Once we're out of debt, that's something we could look at.
Yeah.
But as it is, we have no way. I would have to go back to work, and then as discussed, we would be paying $1,200 a month for Freya's daycare. So then I have to go back to work, making also at least $22 to $25 an hour. And we would just barely scrape by. And now we're compromising on our values to just barely scrape by. Because it's very important to us to have one of us at home to raise our kids. Yeah,
because I don't agree with a lot of what's going on in the world kind of politically. And I hear there's a lot of indoctrination going on at school. And I want to make sure that my daughter has a good influence before she's thrust out into the world of whatever people are discussing out there.
And then if he's only making $25 an hour, he would be making less on EI, which is also not enough to sustain us. So even though the income is very sporadic, it's very feast or famine, it can be very stressful.
We're on a low mountain right now, but we're still at the peak.
Exactly. We're still managing to make things work. And so that's why he hasn't made a jump. He could go into other things, other trades, or other things kind of adjacent to the industry he's in that might be a little easier, like physically. But then we're looking at, you know, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for him to obtain the schooling necessary to get the credentials to get those jobs. And we are not in the business of going into debt again.
Yeah.
Just to...
Or like a kind of tangential to that, I could move into like a different trade. And that's pretty much something I can just start doing and call myself an apprentice and go much slower with the schooling and stuff. But also, like, the industry as a whole is just, like, the economy's not doing well. The industry isn't doing well. Like, politically speaking, there's a lot of flack coming at the oil sands and industrial trades in general. And I just don't believe that it's worth making a lateral move in that regard.
All right, we're going to try and wrap up these last few questions because Freya's getting very impatient. Are you ever afraid to share something in regards to money? Nope. I'm not.
No.
I mean, when we decided to start doing this, we had agreed that we wanted to be very transparent and open. But yeah, we wanted to be very transparent. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't share account numbers or anything like that. That would be stupid. Don't do that. But we do want to be very transparent.
About the only thing I really try not to get too hard into is like political views and stuff like that, because I understand there are different opinions. It's very polarizing. I've had conversations in purpose where I've been called all sorts of names and had people get up in my face for raping and pillaging Mother Earth and single-handedly causing all of the problems and killing all of the sea life, because I do typically work in Fort McMurray, which is the Alberta oil sands, which is a whole thing, so I try not to broach that too much.
Yeah, but in regards to money, there's nothing we're really afraid to share.
As far as our finances go, we're an open book.
How has budgeting on YouTube benefited you? I'd say probably just by keeping us accountable, keeping us committed.
Keeps us accountable, keeps us consistent. Because one thing that we used to do on the advice of some people who were excellent mentors of us for a long time, when we first got together, we did a weekly, we called it an executive meeting, but every week we'd sit down and discuss things, and doing the YouTube on videos is the same thing. That's actually how we learned to communicate as well as we do, because we knew that meeting was coming up where we could talk about things, so I didn't have to blow up at Val didn't have to blow up at me, because if there was something we were upset about, we didn't have to discuss it in the moment. We could discuss it later when cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just something that has morphed into YouTubing.
Yeah. Every week we would always make time to sit down with each other and have a candid discussion about, how are you feeling? Is there anything, that I could have done this week to be a better wife? Is there, like, how are you emotionally?
Yeah.
How is your love tank doing? Like your love language? Cody and I have different love languages, so we want to make sure that we're always expressing and filling those tanks for each other. But the finances was one thing we would discuss every week as well, and so now we share that on YouTube with the whole world to see. Did you want to add to that?
I was going to say mostly that it keeps us accountable, it keeps us consistent, and it keeps us focused on our goals and attempting to move towards them.
Yeah. What is your ideal living situation? I don't know, honestly.
Both of us home full-time, living on land with a garden and animals.
Yeah, actually that is it. Right now we keep going back and forth because it's so hard with the position that we're in right now. There's not really a clear way for us to move towards that goal right now. We need to prioritize being able to save money, to get out of debt, to get a down payment to buy land.
Because the thing is, living that way would drastically streamline our expenses and our lifestyle. But the barrier of entry, financially speaking, is quite high.
We have terrible credit right now. We have no money to our names. So we have a long way to go before we can make that a reality. And right now our priority is we just don't want to live in this apartment building anymore. But we also can't really afford to move into a townhouse or a house with the rents in the city. So it's all kind of up in the air. But that is our ideal living situation, is to build a homestead on some land of our own. Stop picking at me.
Yeah. Hunt things, raise animals, grow crops, build things. Obviously put that on YouTube, because I think that's something we really enjoy. Continue doing these videos as well, because I think that financial situation will be interesting for people to see.
And then the last question we have is, how do you keep level-headed when unexpected things arise to keep yourself from spiraling out?
At this point, for me, I think I'm pretty well just used to it. I've been in this industry for a long time. I'm accustomed to the feast or famine. On a more kind of higher level, on a higher level, I guess I've been interested in Stoic philosophy for a long time, and like I've read Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. Tim Ferriss talks a lot about different strategies. So when something bad happens, like I lose a job and we're not sure how to pay our bills, we sit down and have a conversation of, okay, what is the worst possible scenario beginning right now? What's the worst possible thing that can happen that we could still do something about? Obviously, like an apocalypse or like an asteroid or something we can't fix, but worst case scenario, I never go back to work. But what happens there? Well, we default on things. Maybe we claim bankruptcy. We have to move in with a family member. Well, that would hurt my pride a little, but that's not too bad. So we found it incredibly helpful to look at the worst case scenario and just be really honest about what it could be and get accustomed with the worst case scenario.
I'm a very fussy baby today.
Yeah, she's very fussy.
But yeah, like Cody said, we're just kind of used to the situation. At this point, we've been through the ringer enough times that we understand that stressing about it is not going to solve our problems, and we just kind of have to, move on with our life and do what we can, control the things that are within our control. And just like Cody said, my biggest help has been thinking through what is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then working out how to, solution seek that. Because if you look at your worst case scenario and then realize that there's a solution to your worst case scenario, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to be all right. But I see our battery on the camera is dying, and this is getting to be a very long video, and she's fussing, so we're going to end it here.
She's real mad. We got to shut her D. In terms of, it's just whatever the situation is going to be isn't going to change no matter how much I stress about it. So I just try not to stress, because it's not going to change anything, and all it's going to do is make me more miserable. But I think we'll leave it here because of the fuss butt here. So if you like it. If you don't like it, dislike it twice. We'll catch you on the next one. We love you very much. And is it payday yet? Bye.